We work with a restaurant group that is the most profitable restaurant group by location in the US. We took over the music a few months ago. The music got so good that it started causing longer dwell times, which created panic at the marketing level. They loved it and they called us and they're like, hey, we need to turn tables faster. Like everyone loves the music. We still want to love the music, but we need to make people move faster.
In just a moment, you'll meet Vikas Sapra, DJ, tech founder, and the guy who's quietly rewiring how the world's best hotels and restaurants think about sound. Vikas has played for A-list celebrities like Jay-Z and Kanye, just to name a few. He's collaborated with Mark Ronson and Questlove. He's the rare DJ who can play a rock set on Friday, an R&B crowd on Saturday, and a Brooklyn warehouse the weekend after that. And every venue he's played, the GM said the same thing. Dude, take over our music. What does it take to get you full-time here? Well, after the 100th time of being asked, he did. And that's how Raina was born. Today, Raina powers the sound in over 600 hospitality spaces. Bishop's Lodge in Santa Fe, to the Moxy in East Village, to José Andrés' restaurants, Tao Group's rooftops, Auberge properties, and so much more. They're a preferred vendor for Hyatt, and they're doing something that no one else is doing. They're combining a DJ's ear and operator's mindset and a tech founder's instinct for what to build. Vikas' thesis is sharp. Music isn't decoration, it's a behavioral lever. The right tempo changes dwell time. The right familiarity changes the average check. And most operators, even the great ones, still treat it as an afterthought. This conversation is about how he's changing that. Here's my conversation with Vikas Sapra, founder of Raina. You guys are going to love it. Without further ado, get ready to meet Vikas. Vikas, welcome to the show, good sir. It is an absolute honor to have you on Behind the Stays.
Likewise, my friend. Great to be here. Thanks so much.
We were chatting on LinkedIn a little bit, which is how we connected, and you mentioned that you listened to the show, which is always a nice thing to say, right? Even if you don't listen to the show, is you flatter the person's podcast that you're trying to pitch yourself for. But we were just chatting, Vikas, because I've been thinking about doing an episode for a while on somebody who understands music, somebody who understands sound design for spaces, somebody who thinks critically about curating music, curating sound for different spaces within a hotel, within a property, and that's the work that you do. But before you did this work, you were a DJ, and you were not just like any wedding DJ. You were a pretty notable DJ. You played for very well-known celebrities, including Jay-Z, Kanye. You collaborated with incredible folks like Mark Ronson and Questlove, and so many others. So I wanted to start, before we talk about the business that you're running now, on where your love for music came from. Like, just take us back to, I assume it was as a child, but take us back to the moment where you realized that music meant maybe a little bit more to you than it might mean to the average person.
Sure. And I definitely do listen to the show. That was not just me being flattery. So I'm a child of the 80s. I was growing up listening to everything from classic rock and new wave, the golden age of hip hop, electronic and dance music. That really crystallized when I was studying abroad in Copenhagen. But also growing up, my next door neighbor was a guitarist. So at 10 years old, I was going over next door and was being introduced to Zeppelin and Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Clapton. So a lot of different musical interests and influences. But I was honestly the kid in high school making mixtapes and handing them out to friends. I was making all the playlists for our college dorm parties. I was the selector that anyone could trust. And there was in New York during the heyday of my DJ career, there were not many DJs one night playing a rock and roll set, the next night playing a hip hop and R&B crowd, and then doing a Brooklyn warehouse, like underground house music party the weekend after, right? That range, being able to read any kind of room, is what prepared me to build Raina more than almost anything else. But I actually didn't start DJing until 6 years after the corporate world.
Wow.
I was a management consultant for 5 years, left to build a tech startup. And I actually didn't start DJing until I was 29 years old.
Wow.
Well after like a full corporate career. So Raina is really a culmination of all three disciplines. It's the operator mind, the tech mind, and the music mind,
Do you
right?
I mean you can play, you can mix clearly across
Mhm.
genres, which is a talent in and of itself. Is there like a favorite set that you have, or like what are the moments that you think back to where you just smile because they were maybe the most quintessentially you?
Oh, that's a great question. Someone actually, after an event, asked this to me very recently, and there are a few touch points. One is there's something called the Full Moon Festival on Governor's Island in New York. And my first year playing there, I played the side stage, and it was kind of a cold, cloudy, rainy day. Started off with 5 people on the dance floor, maybe 10 people on the dance floor. And within 30 minutes, it was like 400 people under this tent.
Wow.
And, uh, and just seeing that happen in real time when there was a much bigger act on the main stage was very memorable. But, I still DJ about 20 events a year. And that's
Wow.
what's allowed me to bootstrap this company. And I do a lot of very high end luxury weddings that often go to sunrise and past. And anytime you have a crowd that has started at 8 p.m. going to 8 a.m. in the morning, it is a very special moment. And
Wow.
you've been on a journey together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. I've always wanted to go to a wedding like that. Yeah. I've got several friends who are Indian and, they'll have like an American wedding and then they'll go to India for like the India wedding. I always
Mhm.
get invited to the American wedding, but never to like the real Indian wedding. I'm like, oh, come on, man. Just take me
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean,
The,
that's got to talk about stamina, right? Talk about, I mean, you're reading people across like key hours of the night into the morning. People are probably have a range of emotions by by 8 a.m. Right? People probably look quite differently at 8 a.m. than they did at 8 p.m.
Not
That
wrong.
that's remarkable. Do you so like what is right now, right? The kind of event that you appreciate DJing most. You've done underground stuff. You've gone from all sorts of vibey bars to again luxury weddings, which sounds like the what you sort of specialize in now. Do you have sort of like a key event, a key atmosphere that feels, I don't know, the most genuine to where you are in this state in life?
I mean, I still do quite a wide array of events. Yeah, I just did this a Netflix premiere for Black Rabbit, and it. Are you familiar with the show?
I know of it. I have
Okay,
not seen it, but I know of it.
it's
But
it's
yeah,
it's based on this brother duo who are hospitality owners of this like hotspot in Brooklyn, and it was set in like the 90s 2000s New York indie kind of rock scene. So like doing something that is like so creatively specific is really interesting. When there's a brief, I mean this translates very well to my company. It's like when there is a brief and they require nuance and a lot of specificity and bringing people into a specific world, like, that's fun. It doesn't have to be, it's not the scale of the event. It's really the intricacy of the event that I find very interesting. So
yeah,
movie premieres offer that, or like show premieres, but also these weddings, they're often multicultural. I do a lot of Sephardic weddings, so it could be, you know, an American and like a Persian or an Israeli, and some of the events are held in Morocco or Israel or Mexico, and all of those the environment is different, the local flavor is different, the couple's cultural backgrounds is different, and weaving that into one cohesive narrative
yeah.
is really interesting, and
Yeah.
and like the joy.
I mean, the prep time, right? It must take to think, especially. I mean, maybe once you've done a couple of weddings, a couple of Indian weddings, or a couple of Israeli weddings. Maybe like
Mhm.
okay, maybe the top 20 or something like that, right? In
Mhm.
respective locations, but then it's a whole other thing to think through. Like, okay, who is this couple, right? And how do you make this special, especially if you're going for 12 hours? I mean that's truly a remarkable task. do you have like a flow state that you get into? Do you reuse a lot of playlists? Do you like make things up constantly? Like surely this takes an insane amount of work to do right.
It does. It's quite a bit of research. You also so a lot, and what's interesting about the communities I play for, a lot of people have seen me play. There are people who've seen me play 20 weddings. So I'm trying to
Wow.
bring something very unique
Wow.
and find the thread that is very unique to each couple, which is again a parallel to working with a portfolio of 40 brands. They may play similar music, but in different markets, and each one you want it to have a consistent brand sound, but you also want it to have a nuance that is particular and local and very uniquely their own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the same mindset that goes into one as the other.
Well, that's a beautiful segue to Raina, which is the company that you're building right now. And I mean, you can correct me, if my positioning is off here, but essentially, you guys partner with high touch hospitality brands. You help them curate music for various spaces, whether that be various spaces within a hotel, whether it be various properties within a collection. I believe you guys have you work with Hyatt at the corporate level. You work with other notable independent hospitality brands as well. Give us like a I don't know, maybe the through line between like you DJing and you deciding, hey, hotels need what we have here. And I mean, these are immersive, sensory, overload by some people's, interpretations, spaces, right? That tell stories, right? And sound is so critical to any storytelling. So connect the dots for us here a little bit.
Sure. It's pretty direct, actually. So everywhere I played, whether it was locally, domestically, or internationally, staff and GMs would say the same thing,
Mm.
which is, we wish you would just take over all of our music here. And I mean, after like the 100th time, I eventually did. So I stepped into the music director role for a number of hospitality groups. That's when I started working directly with the background music companies that power the biggest operators in the world. And I was completely underwhelmed.
Mm.
The curation was generic. Music wasn't updated frequently enough. The platforms didn't let me manage multiple properties at once. There were no user roles or permissions, so there was no way to give the right level of control to different layers of management. And these were incumbents and the best available option. And they were failing operators who deserved better. So I built what I needed for myself.
Yeah.
And and also the barrier to entry to being a DJ is much lower now, and I'm far more uniquely positioned to build Raina that than I am to compete in that world. And nobody else is doing this with the combination of a DJ's experience and an operator's mindset, as a management consultant and like I had a tech startup also back in 2007. So it's it's that cross functional experience. And like, I'll give you one anecdote.
Yeah, please.
Sure. Like for luxury weddings, you could get a DJ for $1,500, right? Or for a wedding. I started 15,000 to DJ a wedding, right?
Yeah.
And the difference is not the equipment. It's the nuance. It's understanding energy, musicality, the arc of a night, what a room needs before it knows it needs it.
Mm.
And that level of craft is what I've operationalized into Raina. And we treat the entire day like a DJ set, not DJ music per se, but DJ thinking. And that's something the hospitality world hasn't had at scale before.
Do you think, because there's this conversation underway right now in the greater hospitality community, specifically on the hotel side, specifically this contrast between the independent hotels and the branded properties around like who has good taste, right? And I think, right, your taste in music, not exclusively, but certainly is an indicator of your broader sense for taste, right? That said, I know people that have great music taste and horrible design taste, right? So they're not mutually exclusive by any means. But there is this sense, right? And music, I think, carries a lot of weight around if the music feels right in a space, you feel like if you're plugged in at all, that the people behind the space know what's up, right? Like they're like this is a known thing. I'm curious, as you have built Raina, have you found like do the operators that you work with have taste, and then it's just been hard for them to find the right tools and vehicles to amplify that taste well? Has there been a big disconnect between what's cool and what's not cool when you work with a branded property versus maybe an independent property? I guess what I'm getting at is how much of this has been a lack of tooling for the industry versus like, oh, it's both a tooling need, but also a taste need where folks need somebody doing the curation work versus just the tools to, to make sure that Joey, the intern, can't, change up the mix in the lobby at, 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Do you give us a sense of from your perspective, those realities right now in the market?
I think that's a great question. I think the operators that we are working with do have a strong POV on music. I think they've been also underserved, right? Not from just a tooling, not just a tooling, but from a taste perspective. We learn a lot from our operators. I can call out 2 operators that have given me the most in-depth music briefs that have actually informed the way we present our music briefs now to our clients. One of those operators, I think either you've spoken to them or about them, is Trailborn. Let's talk about independent first.
Yeah.
The thoughtfulness with which they approached their music brief. I mean, they gave us what the playlist should be, what it should not be. They linked to local music festivals to make sure we're incorporating the flavor of kind of local music programming. They also gave us a list of uniquely local artists and sample playlists by day part. So they did a lot of the work, right? Now, what they entrust us to do is take that and expand on that vision, organize it in the right day part and energy. And, that's one type of brand. Another brand that did an exceptional job, not surprisingly, was Aman, along with this collaboration with Bastion Collection on this new property, this new members club that we did in Miami called Saya, where on each page for each day part, they put the kelvins of what the lighting should be during those periods, what the decibel level of the volume should be during that period, and also some sample music. So these people are the best operators are treating music like they are menus and uniforms and design and lighting, and they're giving it the same level of attention, right? What we do is then translate that vision, make it scalable from a single property to a multi-property portfolio, keep music updated every week. What we do that's pretty unique, that no one has ever done, is in addition to playlists, we also offer DJ mixes. So for nightlife oriented, high volume hospitality groups, they usually have relied on playlists for background music and DJs for kind of high energy moments. There's been no one who's really going to combine those two. So in addition to curation and tooling, there's a whole new form factor of music that we're introducing that gives you the experience of a live DJ for those high energy, high peak volumes, moments. So that's also like a differentiator of why they come to us as well.
Yeah. And do you guys like? I'm just trying to think through. I think those were great examples. The big opportunity, like, and really like the flow here. So if I'm going to open a new hotel, right, and I want somebody to help me think through what is the musical soul of this place and how to, what is the spectrum of that soul, right, from daytime to nighttime, etc., from season to season. How are you guys helping sit down with folks and say like, hey, let's are you sitting down with the brand folks at this respective property? And then how important do you think this is? Obviously, you think it's important, right? But how important is it from the operator's perspective today? Like, is there a growing sentiment or a growing realization that like, hey, this aspect of the guest experience is truly worth like investing in? Are you seeing this increase in general awareness and general interest? Has it remained? Is it still kind of an uphill battle, right? Especially, maybe differs depending on the property or the brand that you're working with. But I'm just curious, from your perspective, do you feel like you're having more productive conversations with folks today around the importance of this level of attention to musical detail as as the menu, as you pointed out, or is it still something that you kind of have to pitch relatively hard?
I think the operators that we're working with care a lot about guest experience and brand.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that's all of them, right? Music, I think of all the design elements you've mentioned is usually the afterthought for many brands. I think that there's a lot of research that shows how the right tempo affects dwell time, the right volume, the right tempo, the right familiarity, the right tempo. All of it affects things like average check, dwell time. There's a lot of data around it, but then there's what's also perceived and felt. Now, going back to your question about, the process, like there is a discovery call. We look at the venue's brand decks. We look at all the ingredients, and like there are menu ingredients that will inform an entire sound, right? We go through like an extensive like sample process, like after the discovery call, understanding what the demographics of the space are, how the customer volume shifts from hour to hour, what they're envisioning, and then ingesting all of their information to see where there could be gaps or opportunities for kind of surprise and delight. We'll offer them a couple of different points of views on music, and then once there's alignment, we could build out full programs. So there's an extensive kind of discovery process, right? So some operators come in with a very strong point of view. Some are like, hey, we know you're the experts, help us build this out. So it really is collaborative, and it's on a scale. The idea that does stuff for some people, music is just a check box, right? And I think that's more at the select service level, and like we do some of those, but it's not really in the space. Usually there are management companies operating those that care a little bit more about music, and then they'll bring us in. But it's in this age, like every point of differentiation matters.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, It makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing it even a lot more in real estate, right? In multi-use, branded residential, they are being treated as hotels and hospitality spaces now. They have their commercial properties with amenity spaces and F&B within these properties, and they're being treated more like hotels than they are as office buildings. So I think that I think in the hospitality industry, it's been proven and tested, and the best operators know that it's an important touch point. I think the other use cases are now also coming on board that music is an important lever.
Yeah. When you work with a portfolio of hotels, right, especially a branded portfolio, I know that you guys work with Hyatt, you work with Auberge, you work with some Ritz-Carltons. Help us understand like the hotel by hotel dynamics, right? And how like I'm just curious how these conversations unfold. Like, is there a must play branded playlist where like, hey, from these hours to these hours at every Ritz-Carlton, like this is the playlist, or from but then after 5, it's like you can have a playlist that is like a little bit more I don't know, local or whatever, for lack of a better term. like how much flexibility do hotel owners and operators have when it comes to music? Like what is standard from your experience based off of at the brand level versus like where's the room to experiment?
Sure. So in reality, we are not at the brand level for a lot of properties, right? We're
Yeah,
still the new kid. We're the new kids on the block,
sure,
right?
sure.
And so often in those large scale properties, we're coming in through management companies and F&B operators.
Yep.
So you mentioned Ritz Carlton, Nomad. We don't do the lobby programming, but we do four of the F&B locations that are managed and run by José Andrés, which is
Amazing.
our portfolio client. Same thing at the Moxy LES, Moxy East Village. Tao Group handles all the F&B, the rooftop, the bar, but we don't do the lobby. So what we're finding is that where music actually influences behavior, we're outperforming. And really, like, we're often not in the lobby. We are in the bars and the rooftops and the restaurants, the zones where music actually changes what people do and how long they stay for. And that's where we win. And when operators realize they can get DJ quality programming for their peak moments to the platform without booking a DJ every Friday and Saturday night, the conversation about budget also changes completely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually how we get to the rest of the building and the rest of the portfolio.
And do you guys, when you're working with an operator, is it pretty like, let's say I was going to a restaurant, right? A José Andrés restaurant in New York versus one in DC. Like, how much does the local flavor of a place genuinely alter the playlist? Like if you had to give a rough percent, and I know this is variable depending on everybody, but like give us a sense of like how much people care about the local feel versus sort of the national, like, oh, you can hear this kind of music, this is the vibe at José Andrés restaurants, like nationally.
That's a great question. So I'll give you two different examples. So José Andrés, for example, is really more at the brand level. They want consistency.
Yep.
However, we take individual point of views from local markets. Like, there was a conversation where kind of New York led the conversation, but Vegas wanted a specific sound. And we had to go back to the drawing board with this, with the CMO and the brand team to say, hey, this is actually a really good perspective. And we think there's a way to marry these two ideas in a way that's cohesive. And there was a bit of kind of massaging between the GMs and of the local markets and the brand team, which I think it's still a consistent sound across the portfolio, but it was informed by what was happening on the ground and by the operators, right? So that's one end of the spectrum. Auberge, very hyper local, hyper specific.
Yep.
We do Bishop's Lodge in Santa Fe, and we took recordings of local nature and animal sounds and infused them into the spa programming. And these were like Smithsonian recordings of like the local land recordings and nature recordings. And they wanted hyper local. They did not want it to sound like you were at like Goldner Hirsch in Park City, right? So I mean, that's like the beauty of what we do, right? What is the directive? Is it brand consistency or is it very unique localization? Yeah. And while still keeping the texture and the narrative of the music feeling like an Auberge property, right? Yeah. Even though it is very specific to that region.
And are you guys, so on the, how often are these playlists like getting updated? So like, let's say like I'm at, Bishop's Lodge, for instance, right? How often are you guys rethinking how much experimentation is happening? Like I could see, right? I think what is super interesting, and there's so many variables here, right? But it's like if you can associate like an increase in dwell time or an increase in average check, right, at a bar, right, pre and post Raina, like obviously there are zillions of factors, but that's a really like interesting sort of measurable, impact, right, on sort of your all's partnership. I'm curious, like how data driven are you guys in that vein? And then how frequently like are you adjusting things and like are there experiments that you run of, okay, if we run this set, does this increase dwell time or does this increase average check versus this set? Like talk to me about the business side of it, I guess.
Great question. So we work, I don't think I can name this operator, but we work with a restaurant group that is the most profitable restaurant group by location in the US. And
Okay.
we took over the music a few months ago, and the music got so good that it started causing longer dwell times, which created panic at the marketing level. They loved it and they called us and they're like, "Hey, we need to turn tables faster. Like this is everyone loves the music. We still want to love the music, but we need to make people move faster."
Yeah.
We completely overhauled in 24 hours. We overhauled the entire programming, and the two levers we used to do that was increasing tempo, but reducing familiarity. Right?
Wow.
Those changing those two levers actually achieved what they needed to, and they were like, there was I forget what the numbers were, but there was a market difference within a week of that. So again, it's what the directive is. Do you want longer dwell time? Do you want people staying and buying more drinks, or do you want to turn tables faster? If you're like a very high volume restaurant, you know, and to talk about the nuance there, at Cathedral, a restaurant at the Moxy East Village, between the first dinner seating and the second dinner seating, we will increase beats per minute, BPMs, every 15 minutes. So we were going from 100 BPM to 120 BPM over a 45-minute stretch. So it's never jarring, and guests don't notice what's happening consciously, but the room is changing, and it's that feeling. And it's and that's a room where it's the tempo starts increasing and the familiarity starts increasing, because that's when people are at the bar and they want people to be spending there and staying after dinner as well for that one last drink. So there's the business case for it. Then there's also like a cost reduction saving. So in 2023, for example, we do the entire Tao Group portfolio. And in 2023, because of us, they went back to the architects and they said, for every upcoming restaurant, we're no longer putting in take out the DJ booths. We're going to keep banquettes, right?
Wow.
And they're a brand that uses our DJ mix. I think only about 25% of our customers actually use that premium product because it's nightlife oriented. Most people are on the playlist version. But if you take those cost savings from the weekly DJs and the build out of booths, that's over 7 figures in savings across that portfolio. And that's probably at a conservative level.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like, yes. And talk about just also giving management's time back, right? One thing you don't think about from a music perspective is volume and volume automation, right? We have volume automation that saves. So you can program, here's what today needs to sound like at noon, at 5 p.m., at 7, 9, and midnight, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're saving people 20 to 30 decisions a week by a simple, technical solution that people don't even think about, along with curating playlists.
Do you guys, when you walk into a space or your partner takes you through a new space, what are the kinds of questions that you ask yourself? Because I'm thinking about listeners to this conversation, right, who believe in what you're saying. That I mean, the people are getting excited, I'm sure, because it's like, oh my gosh, yes, like this is the level of detail at which I care about, this space and the music that flows through it. What are really good questions you guys like to ask in your discovery calls, right? As you're touring a new space, that you think are good questions that every operator, every hotel owner should ask themselves when thinking through, like, what is the character or what is the soul of the space?
So I would say there's 4 or 5 questions. If you can answer them, will get you to about 90% of the way there. one is familiarity. How familiar should the music be?
Yeah.
Out of every five songs, how many songs should your guests know? That gives us a good insight into also taste, right? So connected with familiarity is accessibility,
Sure.
right? If someone is saying like we want them to know like 2 out of 5, then we're like, okay, so something that's um, timeless, not necessarily mainstream or commercial, but it's also not eclectic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the way, so how familiar should it be? How accessible should it be? Think about it from an energy perspective. We have 5 energy states that we talk about: very low, low, medium, high, and very high. And think about what the energy state should be at different, according to different day parts. And then if you've got, think about sample. So not everyone is very musically inclined or musically literate.
Sure.
So they may not know, we've created a taxonomy of over 300 subgenres of music in our system. The way it corresponds to hospitality. We don't expect our clients to have that same level of depth and knowledge, but can you provide a song or an artist or even a feeling that, or a decade or era of music that resonates for this space, right? You don't have to give us much, and we can kind of read between the lines. And then I think it's very important to really know what your demographics are, right?
Yeah.
And if they are shifting or changing, to adjust accordingly. There's, you can't. I would say you can't fight your neighborhood, right? You can't fight your like. You can do all you want to have a brand sound, but if it's completely misaligned with who's actually coming in, that's not going to work. So, if you answer those few questions, that gets you most of the way there. And then we do the fine tuning, and we provide you the samples to get you to so you can understand the feeling that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a truly remarkable process. It's super important, and I think it is this thing. I feel like we talk a lot about design and hospitality. We talk a lot about guest experience with respect to how staff is greeting guests, interacting with guests. We talk a lot about tech enabled services within a hotel, right? Most people don't want to have to wait in line to get a key anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think this missing component is how influential sound is in a space, and how you want, even within one hotel, right? You want different sounds based off of where you are. Like I don't know, maybe the average person, I would assume, doesn't want to be listening to EDM at 7 a.m. while drinking a coffee. Maybe some people do, right? I don't know if that's the average person, right? But you also don't want super slow jazz at 12:30 in the nightclub, right? And so there are all these incredible these are surface level decisions, surface level questions that you need to ask. But I think what I appreciate about the work that you all are doing, I think it's elevating this importance of sound being this real lever that people can pull, right? In terms of changing guest behavior in a space, whether, again, as you were talking about earlier, whether it's to keep them there longer, push them through a little bit quicker. And it's not something that I think enough people spend time talking about in this era, right, that we're living in, where margins are super, super thin for these properties, right? Everyone feels this pinch, the squeeze, as a recent article in Skift called it. I think this is one of those great examples of something that at a relatively low cost can fundamentally change the way that your business looks and operates. Maybe not instantly. In some cases, it does sound like it can happen pretty quickly. But it's just another lever to pull and to test, right? And it's so critical. It's, if done well, it dramatically improves, even if it doesn't improve your bottom line per se. It's certainly going to improve guest experience. There's nothing worse than feeling like something is off in a room, right? And I think we've all had experiences where you walk into a restaurant and music's just too low, or it's just too high, or it doesn't fit the vibe, right? And not everyone will notice that, but I think the kinds of guests that most folks who are at least listening to this show are trying to attract will notice that. And this is a solution. You guys have built a solution to help solve for that, which is really exciting. When you guys think about sort of the kind of client, the kind of partner that works best with you guys, is there like a ideal customer set for you right now at this stage with Raina? Is it sort of a larger hotel? Is it one where there's lots of different spaces? There's restaurants, there's bars, there's a spa. Like, help us get a sense for who you guys like working with.
We like complexity. I
Mm,
think when they're what we work, I think where we provide the most outsized value is large operators, lots of properties, lots of different functions. One of our biggest clients is a real estate developer that owns everything from hotels, mixed use, entire entertainment districts, F&B, and they casinos as well, right?
wow.
So to have a trusted partner that can take all of those segments and treat them with an equal amount of care is really important. So I think we work with single one-off restaurants as well that really care about music,
Yeah.
right? And I think we do a lot for them. But I think the greatest scale is where you have a large portfolio, but a centralized brand where you want transparency across all of it. And rather than a lot of just single independent locations,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's where an operator or a company will get the greatest use for someone they could trust doing select service economy to premium luxury and lifestyle, right?
Yep.
And ultra luxury as well. So the ICPs are really just, I'd say, kind of, it's not lifestyle or luxury or economy or self-service. It's really just discerning operators that have large portfolios.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that when you work with these operators, like, I'm just curious, and I don't know this, and maybe you have better insight into this than I do, but how rigid are branded properties with the kind of music that can be played? Like, does Hyatt have, depending on the brand, do they have very explicit like music standards? I would imagine they have some. What's been your experience?
No, it's actually been pretty unique to the property level.
Wow, that's
I
awesome.
mean, yeah, like we work with everything from like a caption brand to a Grand Hyatt, and a lot in between. And it is a very much an operational conversation with the people at on the ground, not a brand standards conversation.
Yeah, yeah, which is
Yeah,
amazing. Like, and that's the way it should be, right? Like, the operator is going to know their market. They're going to know they're offering better than the brand will.
absolutely. I think that works in everyone's favor. And even with the hospitality operator, the restaurant operators, uh, I think that's where you see more of a brand standard, right? Because when you go to a bazaar meet in Vegas or a bazaar meet in New York, you want to have a similar feeling,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
but Caption Memphis, even Caption Memphis and Caption like Nashville is somewhat differentiated, right?
yeah,
And I think that works in favor and in service of brand and authenticity and actually a true guest experience versus just another out of the box top 40, radio playlist.
yeah. No, 100%. And I I want to get your thoughts on this because I keep coming back to thinking through folks who are listening to this conversation and care about this stuff, care deeply about being differentiated in their guest experience. And I wonder, Vikas, if you could take us through like the nuance or the challenge or the opportunity, or you could use whatever descriptor you want
Mhm.
between sort of imposing uh, a sound onto a space versus like letting the space tell you what the sound should be. Like, I think about if I'm building a particular property, I have a particular vision for it in a particular location. It's probably hard to like not immediately marry my music taste, right, with the space. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. How do you think through helping people work through that, even just, I don't know if it's a mental hurdle, right? Of like letting the property tell you the kind of music that should hold in its various spaces versus whatever you just like listening to as the operator, as the owner?
Great question. Everyone has a bias when it comes to music, our curators included. And part of what we've built is taking that bias out of the equation, right? To really honor our clients' needs and the property's needs for what is actually happening in the space. That's why we're seeing who the designer was. We're seeing, what's the approach? Is it minimalist? Is it maximalist? What's the textures? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it industrial? Is it lush? Right? Is the clientele more mainstream? Is it more luxury? Is it upmarket, downmarket? All of those aspects inform the music program.
Yeah.
And the way, we have over 600 properties. No two properties have the same music programming.
Sure.
Each one has a very unique signature, right? And I could walk you a little bit through the process, which lets us do that.
Yeah.
Right. So most companies approach music top down. Someone decides to vibe, right? It's either, it's a conversation between us. We decide on the vibe. Then a curator goes looking for songs, right? We do the opposite. Every track is listened to by a human first. It has to earn its place, right? That's all taste. But then it gets a full sonic signature across, and that's AI enrichment, right? You talked about tech enablement before, so I'm going to touch on this for a quick moment. And I think anyone who does not use AI in this space, music is data, and there is a way to enrich that data in a way that no human is capable of doing, and it's a really missed opportunity. So humans, our curators listen to it based on taste. Then it goes through a full sonic, like AI enrichment program. Every song on our platform has over 1 million possible combinations, and like each one of that is a unique signature.
Wow.
There's a third layer. Once after the AI classification, one of our music directors then reviews that classification to make sure it lines up to our mental model on how it fits into a hospitality space. So after that single listen, the track is classified permanently, and our curators never have to hear it again. So that knowledge compounds over time. It's a bottom-up approach. We're not making playlists. We're filtering music down for each program. And it's what lets us match a client brief with precision that a human curator alone can't achieve. So, we can go deep into that, but I think that's like a good overview for, how like this behavior lever answer is like the primary response. It's like the technological explanation and for how it started by a human, but that it is integrated through technology. And
no, I love that. And I had this vision, this I don't know, image, right, as you're talking, right, of it's almost like you walk into a space, and the temptation for us all, I think, is immediately to start talking, or like it is to start designing, or is to start whatever it is that we think we should be doing. Critiquing maybe is the best like overarching word. And rather than immediately critiquing, it sounds like what your guys' process enables is a pause, right? Is this moment of walking in, don't say anything, don't think anything, like just be, right? And then right, what is felt? Is it industrial, or is it more of a maximalist property, as you articulated? And I think so often, especially in this industry where everyone's rushed, everyone's just like strapped for time, right? You need to be very efficient in this industry in order to work. There is this temptation to kind of move quickly, I should say, through these decisions. And I think the approach that you guys articulated is like, you can move fast if you want to, and that might work, or you can move with intention, and still get the the benefits of the efficiency, right, that come through the AI enhancement, the work that you guys do. And I think that the best spaces that I've ever been in, right, the best spaces that encourage me to spend more and or to move quickly, right, are spaces where it feels like somebody thought very critically about the personality of the space and designed a sound system that matched the feeling, the physical feeling that I have in the space. It melded with the other senses, whether it be taste if it's a restaurant, right? Sight if it's a beautifully designed lobby. And what I get so jazzed about with respect to the work that you're doing is every space can truly be unique and should truly be unique. And that's a very hard thing to do. Like the average hotel room, right? Everyone claims that their hotel room is different. Whatever. It's plus or minus a couple hundred square feet different, really. And then there's some interior design and furniture that makes it different. But the nuts and bolts of the space are identical. But where sound comes in is you're in a lobby in one hotel that could be the same square footage in the same neighborhood, in the same market, at the same price level, and it could feel entirely different than the hotel across the street. I told this story on the podcast recently, but I went to the Park Hyatt in Georgetown in DC a couple weeks ago to meet a friend for a drink, and I walked in and I don't know if it was an off night or what was going on, but there was no music, and it was this beautiful lobby bar, beautiful cocktails were gorgeous. The service was good. But the fact that there was no music, right, for whatever reason, and maybe there wasn't, it was way too low or something like that. It completely altered my experience of what otherwise would have been a great property, right? And if I wasn't staying there, thank God, but if I was a guest staying there paying that ADR, right, those are the moments I'm paying for. I'm paying for moments that move me, right? When I travel, I think we all are to some extent. And I think that the work and attention to detail that you guys are paying and really helping others pay to this space is just it's remarkably important. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, everyone's looking for a differentiator. We're all in the market right now where differentiation has to be king. And it's really hard to differentiate dramatically without having loads of additional, cash resources, which lots of folks don't have. But this is a beautiful example, right, of with what I imagine is a relatively doable investment. You can totally change the vibe of a space, and there's just so much power in that. Sorry, I went off a little bit, but I was sort of musing based off of everything that you were just sharing, and just wanted to affirm that.
Well, no, this is actually this inspired a thought right now. So what you're saying about silence at Park Hyatt, I think silence is actually a very useful tool, and I use it a lot in DJ sets, right? But the properties could use it well, but and I'll give you an example of a property that does, which is the Bowery Hotel in New York City. No music, but very low ceilings, very filled with rugs, rich leather, very intimate, feels like a very sexy man cave. But I'm assuming the Park Hyatt was higher ceilings, a little bit more stark white.
Yes.
It won't work. That will feel like a gymnasium, like an auditorium, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
When we talk about, design, the first thing I want to see is your brand deck. I want to see what colors you're using. I want to know the height of the ceilings. I want to know the textures of the space, the ingredients in your menu. All of these touch points are exactly, does the music need to be breezy? Does it need to be introspective? Does it need to be a bit moodier, or does it want to be airy? Right? Does it need to be textured and busy and complex, or light and airy and uplifting? So, when I go back to every song has a sonic signature that could have a million possibilities. Those we're talking about energy and subgenre classifications, and the sonic ingredients of that song. Is it vocally led? Is it vocally sparse? Or is it instrumental? Because, and using vocality in addition to energy and sonic structure, like I said, that's 1 million combinations per song. And we have a system that kind of lets us whittle down to hone in on the right energy for these spaces, right? And the right textures.
Yeah. And I think that's the recipe that we all need, right? That's an incredible amount of data. It's a large data set you have across hours and hours, years and years, quite frankly, of your work, all the way back to your core DJ days, right? When you got started, and all of that influence, right, helps you and the team kind of think through what is the right recipe for what is the right mix, right, for this space. But Vikas, this has been amazing, man. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing. I think it's critically important for folks that want to learn more about Raina, about your work, your trajectory. Where's the best place for them to go?
I mean, our website, rainamusic.com, Raina music. But we have a lot of if anyone of your listeners are interested, we've actually created a lot of case studies around our operators. So we have, if you want to check out what some of the best how the best hospitality operators are thinking and what they are listening to, we have a lot of case studies that we're happy to share with people. But at the end of the day, I think the bar for music has been set very low, and that's ultimately what we're trying. I don't think people understand how nuanced and how dialed in music can be in a space, and that's the mission now. Yeah,
it's a worthy one, man, and I laud you and the team for pursuing it. And I'll have links to Vikas's LinkedIn and also the website in the show notes below, folks. If you are listening to this, just scroll on down, click on over to the website, rainamusic.com. It's a beautiful site. They've got awesome case studies, as Vikas mentioned. Also, you can get a sense for the portfolio. They work with incredible folks. We've already mentioned several of them on the program today. Wolfgang Puck, José Andrés Group, Public, Preferred Brand with Hyatt, etc. So they know what they're doing. Vikas, thank you, sir, for taking the time to chat with me today, and looking forward to staying in touch and seeing how you guys continue to grow.
Thanks so much, Zach. Really appreciate it.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us for this episode of Behind the Stays. I'd love to know what you thought of the episode. Feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Behind the Stays, or send me an email at zach@journey.com. If this is your first time tuning in, it's a pleasure to have you, and we hope to have you back again soon. But if you've been a listener for a while, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd subscribe to the show if you aren't already, and then leave us a rating and review of the show wherever you're streaming this podcast. Oh, and if you know a hotelier or a hospitality entrepreneur that's building something new and novel, I invite you to introduce them to me so that my team and I can discuss bringing them on the show. Again, you can just shoot me an email at zach@journey.com or a DM on Instagram. Behind the Scenes is brought to you by Journey, a next-generation loyalty program built for the modern traveler. We're looking to onboard new boutique hotels, unique stays, and the top vacation rental management companies onto our platform every day. If you're a hospitality entrepreneur who has a stay or a collection of stays with soul, we'd love for you to apply to join our alliance at journey.com/alliance. Again, that's journey.com/alliance. Thanks for being here, y'all. We will see you next time.